This is Aisling Clark, director of The Devil's Doorway, and you're listening to Horror Movie Podcast, where we're dead serious about horror movies.
Welcome to Horror Movie Podcast, where we're dead serious about horror movies. On Horror Movie Podcast, you get in-depth horror movie discussions and reviews for classic films and new releases. This episode is sponsored by Shudder, the Netflix for horror. Try Shudder free for 30 days. Just go to Shudder.com and use the promo code HMP when signing up. That's SHUDDER.com and the promo code HMP. We are your horror hosts, Gilman Joel Robertson,
Dave Dr. Shock Becker,
and the Wolfman.
Okay, this episode, we're delivering for you evil babies. You'll be pregnant with fear as we provide you feature reviews of Demon Seed, It's Alive, Hell Baby, and Prevenge. We also have a conversation with longtime listener and podcaster Shani Dreadful, and an interview with Keith Cooper, the writer of Anything for Jackson.
Awesome.
And now we're gonna talk about evil babies and pregnancy gone wrong.
So it didn't occur to me until very late in the process that we were three dudes talking about pregnancy. And so we are going to be joined by Shani Dreadful, as Joel alluded to, but the timing didn't work out for her to actually be here on this episode. So it will be a separate segment, but I'm very much looking forward to talking to Shani. Yeah. Very, longtime listener, the supporter of HMP, and she's great. And she's been pregnant a few times. So,
well, for what it's worth, I will say, and I can't speak for either of you, but like those of us watching these movies, I have also bore witness to babies being born. And it had its moments, because all three were C-sections. And as it turns out, I love me, some decent gore in a horror movie, but there's always that part of my brain's going, see, that's not real. That's not real. Whereas if you put me in real life, I become very, very weak.
Yeah. I'm the same. I was in the room for both of deliveries, and it was quite traumatic. Yeah. I remember when my first son was born, he was held up there. What got me was the tube. It looked alien to me, and it scared me. I was like, the doctor's like, do you want to cut it? I'm like, cut it. I don't want to be in the room with it. I said, get it away from me before it makes a copy of me and steals my identity.
For me, it was just seeing my wife in that much pain was what was traumatizing. Like, I had never seen her in that state before, and it seriously messed me up.
Well, because I think too, and I assume you guys may have felt this way, is you're so it's like the mother is going through all of it, right? She's going through all of that, the pain and the anguish, and you can do nothing. Nothing.
Yeah, you're completely superfluous to the proceedings.
Yes, you really are. You really are.
You are the least helpful person in the room.
Which is usual for me, but it's like it's amplified in that scenario.
Right.
No, yeah, it's a terrifying. I mean, I was nervous the entire pregnancy, honestly. Like the first child that we had, I was just like, I was a mess, every little thing freaked me out. I was very concerned about the fragility of that situation, but
it's tough. My wife went into labor at 5 months.
Wow.
So they had to put her on medication, and she had to just stay in bed. For the next scary. 3 months, and we moved in the process from one apartment to the other during that time. So it was pretty traumatic.
My wife was in labor for almost 24 hours. So the labor started early in the morning, and we were trying to decide if we should go into the doctor or not, and they're like, no, don't come in quite yet, it's not time yet. And it just went on and on and on. We ended up going to her sister's graduation.
Wow.
And then it went the whole day, and then at like 2 a.m. or something is when she finally delivered. I mean, it was a long day.
All of ours were scheduled C-sections. So we showed up when they told us to show up. They induced labor, the whole 9 yards. But it's like, that didn't make it any better. It was still just.
Well, C-section's intense, man. That's something that had never even occurred to me. So what was that? You knew from the beginning there were going to be C-sections?
Yes, because at the time my wife she had the weight issue that she had, and they basically just felt like, for her, the safer move was to do that. But then once someone has a C-section, once a woman has a C-section, from what I understand, I think it's possible to have the baby through the natural way after that point, but they oftentimes don't want to because they don't want to risk it.
Right.
And so she ended up, she had 3 C-sections all within 3 years of each other. And then like the next year had a double hernia operation because that was something, because she had lost a lot of her weight after the 3rd baby. And so it wasn't until she lost that weight, she even realized she had like this double hernia that had because they hadn't, I don't think they had properly like sealed up her inner, like, dude, my wife is a freaking warrior.
I'll tell you.
Like, holy crap. Because you're in the operating room and they cut her open and they open her and they pulled the baby straight up out of it. And it's like, and they have like a curtain. So I'm sitting by her head and she's awake, but she's very out of it because they got the anesthesiologist, right there doing his thing. And I was sitting by her head and the doctor is like dropping these just claws just saturated in like dark blood. And they have like this kind of like blanket or sheet or something up above so she can't see down. And as soon as they bring the baby, they're like, okay, Mr. Robertson, you want to stand up so you can see your son? And like I stand up, but it's like as soon as you clear that little curtain, you're looking down and it's like open and so like I was doing that thing where you're kind of like raising your head up because you don't want to actually look down because you don't want to see everything there is to see. And so I just wanted to see the kid. I didn't want to see the insides of my wife is where I'm going with this.
Oh, it's, I remember when my wife was delivering our first son, he was much bigger. The doctor actually had to cut her.
Episiotomy.
Oh. Yeah. While she was in the process of delivering. Now she had an epidural, so it's not like she was feeling that's pain anyway. And she had plenty of other things going on at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had a midwife and a doula, which honestly like made it so pleasant as opposed to what you guys are both describing.
Yeah.
But it was still just messed me up seeing my wife in that much pain because she was pushing forever. Like I gave up. I was like, well, that's it. Let's just wrap. Like, we can't do it. It's impossible. Let's just leave. And she said, there's only one way out of this for me. So I can't give up. I couldn't believe that she could do it. Honestly, like I gave up emotionally an hour before she gave birth. Like, I don't know how she did it. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, and then to make matters worse for what my wife went through, it turned out she was allergic or had some kind of weird reaction to morphine. And so right after she had the baby, they gave her some medication that was obviously heavily morphine based. So she started to have like insane dry heaves and all sorts of stuff going on. And after having been cut across her entire abdomen. So like every time she it was hell on earth for her for like 24 hours. It was insane.
Awful.
So just the recovery time for a C-section or an episiotomy, that's got to be the worst part is the recovery.
Yeah, it was
brutal, man.
It was. Well, I think the thing we really have all learned from these experiences is that, we're total weenies. And there's a reason why we aren't the ones having the babies. So
any person who can give birth is a warrior.
A warrior, a badass, fill in the blank. Straight up.
The fear is real. I mean, it's insane, man. Like, so tocophobia is the pathological fear of pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
Can lead to avoidance of childbirth. It can be classified as primary or secondary. Primary is a morbid fear of childbirth in a woman who has no previous experience of pregnancy. Secondary is a morbid fear of childbirth developing after a traumatic first event in a previous pregnancy. Now would be, I think, even scarier. If you had some difficulty in childbirth the first time, because I think for most people, our second child was so much easier. Like, she almost had the baby in the car on the way to the hospital. But to have it go wrong the first time, I can imagine that creating a huge amount of anxiety for like a later pregnancy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Our second one was a little scary because they lost the heartbeat. of the child, and the doctors became very concerned. So, my oldest son was born at 8:00 at night, and my youngest was born at like 3 a.m. or something like that. It was just it was a little frightening in that regard. But as far as the pregnancy, as far as the delivery itself, the second delivery was much smoother than the first one.
The first two, I mean, the C-section part obviously being difficult for all of them. It does seem like our second kid, though, it was smoother overall in a lot of ways. Our third kid, however, he was born on time. Everything was fine, except when they first pulled him out, he wasn't really moving. And it didn't look like he was breathing. Ooh. And he ended up being in the NICU for, I think, was it almost to 10 days? It was right, because he was born like 2 days before Thanksgiving. So like we had to come back from the hospital, have Thanksgiving with my mom and our kids, and then rush my wife back up. And yeah, it was rough, man. That was one of those eye-opening experience, especially because if you're in the NICU, you see what a lot of other parents are going through with premature babies and just all sorts. It is rough. So after that experience, we're like, okay, we're good. Yeah, we are good. 3 is our limit. we are. I think at this point, I would have tocophobia, or my wife would. There would be some tocophobia going on, or however you say that. Right. If we were pregnant again. Not to mention the fact that we realized we would be like in our 60s by the time the kid was ready to graduate high school.
Right. Get this kid out of here at some point.
Exactly.
No, first of all, let me just say childbirth is a beautiful thing.
All the disclaimers.
We're only going to be talking about bad examples for the next, 2 hours. But
actually, would you say it's fair to say, Wolfman, that if someone actually does have tocophobia, this is not the episode to listen to?
True. If you're at all worried about pregnancy, just skip this, because it really isn't as bad as it's going to be made out to be in the next. It was very scary, but it was ultimately like the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Absolutely. I remember on Max, as soon as he was born, they had him that little tray thing while they're measuring him. He grabbed my pinky, dude. The waterworks. Oh my God. It was incredible.
Yeah. It really is. It's amazing.
For me, my children are the height of my human experience so far.
100%. 100%.
Right.
Having said that, should we jump into it?
Yes, Joel? Absolutely. Let's do this. Now, those that are listening that love to tell us how, we give you lots of ideas of movies to watch. If this is a subgenre you're interested in, make sure you have your pad and pen or pencil ready, because holy moly, is this a list. So we're going to go through it.
This is an amazing list.
Yeah. I honestly thought the list was a lot shorter. And then as I started scrolling through, I was like, whoa, Daddy, there's a lot. I just felt like this was a much smaller subgenre than it is. Now, I think, Wolfman, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but as you pointed out to me, some of the movies on here are kind of almost more like incidentally connected.
Yeah, we are going to specifically be focusing on people who are impregnated with an evil entity of some kind, right? So we're not going to be talking about movies like Inside, which is a pregnancy horror film, but doesn't have anything to do with the baby being the source of the evil. Or we're not going to talk about Demonic Toys or The Good Son. The Good Son's a good example because it's or The Omen, where it is related to an evil child being born, but it isn't dealing with the idea. To me, the horror concept I wanted to explore is this thing's growing inside of you, right? Like that's terrifying, that concept. I would think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, do you just for clarity's sake, because we obviously have a lot of movies on here, like The Bad Seed, I'm still going to read them.
Yeah, we can talk about them and if they fit or not. I wasn't sure about The Bad Seed. It doesn't deal with pregnancy.
No, it does not. She's already a kid. Yeah, it's like little Rhoda is already like an 8-year-old sociopath. So
let's go. We can go through them and discuss whether or not they fit.
Okay, so I think really the reality is there's going to be a lot of movies on here that probably technically don't fall in the bucket, but they deal with evil kids in some way, shape, or form.
I was trying to leave out evil kid movies that didn't have some connection to the pregnancy in the movie.
All right, so first up, we have The Bad Seed from 1956, which is not technically a pregnancy movie, but, Rhoda, based on the way she acts, there was something that it's a movie that, if I remember correctly, really discusses that concept of nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
Village of the Damned from 1960, which I actually just watched with my children last week. And that does start off with a small village. There's a strange phenomenon that causes everyone to go unconscious for several hours. When they come to, like a couple months later, all the women of childbearing age, I guess, give birth. And they give birth to some really creepy little kids that have the ability to do stuff to you with their mind. And it is a fantastic film. I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a good one, and it is creepy. And it has is it Martin Stevens? Is that the little boy who plays the son in that one? He was also in The Innocents.
Okay,
and he was great in both of those movies. I don't think he did much after those, and it's a shame.
Yeah, he's super creepy.
He was a really strong child actor.
Yeah, he really was. Very mature. Like he just had this maturity, that whole idea of an old soul. Like he has that quality to him. Yeah, for sure. All right, so then we'll jump to Rosemary's Baby, 1968, a classic of the evil baby genre. I mean, considering it's supposed to be the Antichrist.
I mean, this was a question, do we review this movie for this episode because it is probably the best movie ever made on this topic?
Yes.
I personally feel like I don't want to support people who have been convicted of child molestation. So it's a tricky topic. And I thought, well, I mean, and you guys agreed, right? That we were not going to cover it on the show.
We didn't do, not feature review or anything like that. Yeah, it has to be mentioned. It has to be mentioned.
But it brings to mind this idea of art versus artists, and right now the hot topic is cancel culture. Like, how do you address, a great piece of work when the creator of that work has done something that is awful? Obviously, there are probably a lot of creators who have done awful things we just don't know about. Yes. So you kind of have an ignorance is bliss situation with a lot of those things.
That's very true.
But when you know, like Victor Salva, I will never support with my money again, no matter how long I live. It's just never going to happen, right? But I do believe in this idea of forgiveness, and I do believe that people can change. I do believe that redemption is possible. I don't think you make one mistake in your life and that should be the thing you're judged on for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. But it's just a tricky thing. I don't want to support that with my money, and there are certain people who there's no signs that they have changed. And so I'm not going to give my monetary support or the support of our platform to someone who has done something despicable. Right. So it's just an interesting concept. I thought this would be a good time to talk about, and
yeah, I agree with you. And I also, and my personal opinion is this, I also think it depends on the individual viewer, audience members, tolerance, for lack of a better way of putting it, of such things. So for instance, I can personally detach myself from elements of Polanski, the person, from the artist. And I understand that one would argue, well, yeah, but who he is as a person would potentially infuse his art, yada, yada, yada. And I feel like the biggest difference between him and Salva is this. Salva committed a crime in the creation of a film. Like there, you know what I mean? Yeah. So his actual crime to a child was done during the making of a specific movie with that child. And I feel like that and the fact that he's shown, in my opinion, very little. I mean, I know he's gone and done some time and whatnot. I feel like that whole thing opens up a can of worms that for me personally, I find it very hard to get past.
Right.
Well, and his most recent films deal with that subject matter as well. Like it's clear from his most recent movie, I haven't seen it because I won't support it, but from what I've read, so I might not be completely informed, that he's still interested in just exploring these kinds of things,
and I think that's the thing. And obviously I've not seen every single Polanski film. And what Polanski did was, in my opinion, vile. I think that the question becomes, for me, I could still say, all right, but I feel like the things he explores in those movies, specifically in a movie like Rosemary's Baby or Chinatown and movies like that, I can remove that person in much the same way there's a lot of actors and artists and people who have not committed crimes, but they do things I just don't like or I don't agree with. I know a lot of people have a hard time with it. They're like, well, I can't get past X. And it's like, okay, cool. You can't, I can. And it's like, I feel though that is ultimately at the discretion of the viewer. That if you're, look, I've seen Jeepers Creepers, the original. I'll say it. And I liked it. I think it's a good movie. And that makes me sad because it's like once I saw it and I knew what I knew, I was like, okay, well, I don't own it. I can't, I'm not gonna. I didn't pay for it when I saw it, so I kind of felt like I was willing to see it. I don't really want to see anything else though. And knowing now a lot of the details of what he did, like at the time I knew he had done some stuff, but I didn't know like every detail. Although I think I even, going back to like when Powder came out, was like when I first heard about it, if I remember correctly, which I know was before Jeepers Creepers. But there's some people who love that movie. And they are able to say, I love this movie. I understand the person who made it did something really awful, but I love the movie. And I'm not going to get on my soapbox and preach to them about why them even liking that movie is wrong. I don't agree with that. So that's just my take on it.
Well, I love Powder. I mean, I feel that way about Powder, but I can't watch it now that I know, and I bought the DVD before I knew, but I'm never going to support this guy again. But it was easy for me with Victor Salva. And in some ways it's easier for me to ignore it with Polanski. Now this is maybe just completely hypocritical, but it was because it all happened before I was born. Yeah. And so there's an element that like I had been loving Roman Polanski for 20 years before I found out any of this stuff happened. And it happened so long ago, and there's always this, excuse made. Well, it's a French cultural thing that Americans don't understand. Like there was always that kind of thing around that it made me easier to kind of forgive because, well, Chinatown's one of my favorite movies. Rosemary's Baby is one of my favorite movies. The reason it comes up with Salva is because he's still making films. Like, I don't think I would be able to go out and support a new Polanski film now.
And especially if Polanski infused it with not even really like subtle subtext that implied he still was mired on some level in a certain thought process, let's just say.
Well, here's where it actually becomes more difficult because Polanski's easy for me to separate and Victor Salva I don't care about. But there are three people who I absolutely love who within the last year and a half, actually four people, since the Me Too movement began, even though some of these were known for decades, it was really in this last little while that it's become very clear to me kind of what went down. And it really becomes more of an issue to me as I think about my children, right? Because some of my fondest childhood memories have to do with Michael Jackson, have to do with The Cosby Show.
Yep.
And some of my favorite stand-up comedy as an adult that got me through raising children was Louis C.K. He was my absolute favorite comedian. I got to interview him for a documentary I shot. It was like the highlight of my life at that point. Like it was just such a great experience. And Woody Allen was probably my favorite non-horror filmmaker for 20 years of my life. You know, he was my favorite guy making comedies, and his films are some of my absolute favorite films. So it's now at this stage where I have these kids who, I want them to listen to all this. My son loves Michael Jackson, and I don't there's going to have to be a point where I have to tell him this. And it just is weird. It in some ways he'll just find out like I did and it won't be that big a deal. But on other ways it will be like, why, if you knew this, why did you give this guy's stuff to me? That's a weird feeling, isn't it? Like, can I show my kids The Cosby Show? I don't know if I can. I loved that show when I was growing up.
Yeah, me too.
But I would feel weird about showing that to my kids and not telling them who Bill Cosby is as a person. You know what I mean? It's just weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here's where to me it's very interesting because for starters, I kind of feel like too there's I should say the argument, but there is a debate to be had around the idea of, is Polanski the only person that made Chinatown? True, he was an auteur, he was the driving force. I get all of that, right? But he wasn't the only person involved in that production, right? And so do you discount all of the hundreds of people that are involved in making a movie because the person who's sort of the figurehead and is the most attached to that thing? So I guess that's one element of it. But then also, at what point do you draw that line? For instance, think about how many movies that we all love, and I mean that are in all of our top 10s of all time, that Harvey Weinstein produced. Now, I understand the producer's not the director, but Weinstein was a pretty hands-on, involved guy.
He was he was the driving force behind those films.
Do you stop watching all those Miramax Tarantino films? Do you stop watching all the Robert Rodriguez stuff? Do you stop watching all this Kevin Smith stuff? Do we get rid of Scream? You know what I mean? What point do we draw that line?
I mean, I think it's interesting in the cases that you mentioned because Kevin Smith, Tarantino, they all came out and said, they denounce Harvey Weinstein. I think that makes it easier. That I think it's what becomes hard for me is when you are I mean, look, I'm looking at a painting on the wall right now. I have no idea who painted it. Could have been a monster.
Yeah.
Could have been a serial killer.
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure.
Right.
But it's nice. I like the way it looks, and I don't know. I'll never know who painted this painting.
Except that it's a clown.
Yeah. Looks like John Wayne Gacy.
A little like Gacy.
But there's that argument where just there's so much you don't know. But when you do know, Like, can you feel good about supporting the lifestyle of a Victor Salva? Can you say, this guy's out there, he committed harm. From all the information I have available, hypothetically and allegedly, he intends to continue in his harmful practices. So how can I feel good about letting that guy thrive as an artist?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a privilege in a lot of ways to be an artist. It's almost like this is the opposite side of the piracy debate for me in a lot of ways. Because a lot of people think, well, it's just watching a movie. Who cares? I'm just going to burn it. I'm going to rip it. It doesn't matter. But there are real people dedicate their lives to making these movies.
Yeah.
I think you should pay for the movie. Well, on the flip side of that, what if an awful person made that art? I'm supporting their lifestyle. I'm supporting them being able to continue doing what they do and kind of have this additional power over young people, for instance, that Victor Salva has. I mean, that's a crazy thing to be supporting with your money.
It is, but also then to dovetail with that is the discussion. It kind of flies into the whole argument, the moral and ethical argument regarding piracy, which is you're taking money out of not just the hands of the producer and the director and the movie stars, but out of all the crew, the below the line people, the writers, everybody. True. And so likewise, I don't think that means, well, I'm going to support the next, Salva film because all the other people that will choose to work on that movie knowing full well who and what he is. Well, that was their call. You know what I mean? I can't control that. If they choose to do that, that's their choice. But I don't have to support it at that point. But something like A Rosemary's Baby, like Polanski's not the only one getting a royalty check from that, right? There's a lot of other people. And the question becomes, so does anybody who was involved in the production of a movie before a person was even known to be?
Right.
And look, I'm not saying this is an easy answer to this because there isn't, because truthfully, Cosby Show was one of my all-time favorite shows growing up. I so bad wanted to be even just like a friend of the Huxtables, right? Just to be just to be somehow, because I wanted their advice. I wanted their guidance. They were like the most wonderful, like just loving and thoughtful people. And the problem is now that we go in, it's like you said, the ignorance is bliss thing. I think the real problem is, if I'm being honest, it's not just that I know what he did and that he's in prison now. It's that to watch him in this role and to see it's that weird thing that we have, right? We can't, even though it's not him, right? Heathcliff was never him. It's a character. It's not him. But yet it's so hard when somebody's so connected to a specific character to detach when they've done something so awful. Here's an example, Naked Gun. I showed it to my kids about a year or so ago. And I still love that movie. I think it's hilarious. It's got O.J. Simpson in it. And it's got O.J. Simpson just a few years removed from when some really horrible crap happened, regardless of what you think the truth is with that story. Really horrific, awful stuff happened. And it's like all the majority of us that are our age were probably glued to the boob tube watching that court case. And yet, so whenever he came on as Nordberg, I thought it was going to be a problem. And maybe it's because we're so far removed from it. And I was like, it didn't bother me. I just accepted it as the character who just happens to look like this guy that may or may not have done some really horrible stuff.
Hollywood, as we've found out in recent years, is a pretty terrible place for a lot of people. And it goes way back. I mean, Charlie Chaplin. There's somebody who, if you have strong feelings, you should never watch another one of his movies. And they're classics. I love Charlie Chaplin movies. I think, City Lights is probably my all-time favorite silent film. But he had impregnated a teenage girl who he was first attracted to when she was 12.
I mean, that's awful, but I'm not supporting his lifestyle. It's different than putting money in their pocket and letting them continue making movies, I don't know. That just feels different to me. But I appreciate that. And it is hard. Like, I'm not saying I have an answer for this. I actually don't know how I feel about it. Like, it's hard. Extremely complicated.
It is very complicated. I think that's the problem is that I think, like you brought up the cancel culture thing. I think the real issue there for me on a personal level is this is a very complex, complicated discussion that should continue to be had. And it requires, and in some cases, it requires nuance. It's not just an absolute yay or nay, black and white issue on a lot of this stuff. Because like to your point, the Charlie Chaplin thing. I mean, on paper, he did stuff as awful as any of the people we've mentioned that are still alive that might be making movies today. But there is the issue of he's dead and has been dead for a very long time. And so it's almost like you watch his stuff through the prism of it's history. It's like, if you think about like historical figures, holy crap.
Like I can watch Birth of a Nation in the same way I can watch a Charlie Chaplin movie, right?
But on the same token, what happens if, God forgive me for this, but what happens if Victor Salva drops dead today?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that change the way you're going to look at the Jeepers Creepers films?
No, but it might for someone who's 12 right now and doesn't hear about it until they're 30. You know what I mean? Like,
they grew up watching it, they loved it, they knew nothing about it, and then
that's why I couldn't understand why adults in my life were uncomfortable with Woody Allen. Like I would say, Manhattan is such a great movie when I was 16, and they're like, Manhattan is a super creepy movie made by a creepy guy. And I'd be like, what do you mean? And I just didn't get it, but I think when you live through it, I don't know, that also just makes it more real. I think for me, it all goes back to what Joel was saying as much as anything else. I think there's the vote with your dollar element of it, where it's just like, what are you supporting with your money? But because that's real, that's practical. But there is the other element. It's just like, how much can you actually enjoy it? Like, if I was sitting there watching The Cosby Show with my kids, it would feel weird.
Yeah.
It would. Yeah, it really would.
I love Louis C.K. Like, his take on being a young parent is the absolute most refreshing, cathartic thing to listen to when you're a young parent. And it got me through so much, honestly. Like, he has a joke about how difficult it is to get kids into a car. And he said that, he says, you strap them in and you close the door, and that little walk around the back of the car to get in the driver's seat's like taking a Carnival cruise, that felt so real to me in the moment when I was experiencing it. And he was so good at articulating these feelings that I had. But he talks about really raunchy material, which, was raunchy at the time, but it just, whatever. It didn't bother. It was just part and parcel to this package of what he was delivering. But now hearing him talk about doing like some of these acts, you're like, oh, well, that's actually how he was living his life. That makes it not funny anymore. Like, it makes it not very fun when you're like, oh, he's not joking. He victimized people in this way. Like, that's creepy, right? Like, it's just, that stuff's hard to enjoy.
Yeah, I feel like that, but that is, I think, the big difference, and I'm not going to like try to excuse behavior, but I think with Louis C.K., I feel like one of the different, people like him, he did wrong things, he abused the power position he was in. He was not convicted of crimes, right? He was, and I mean, I think ultimately you can make the argument, Polanski technically, has he been?
Well, he was convicted. Flee the country.
Yeah.
I know he flee. No, I know he did all that. I'm just saying, but was he actually,
He was actually convicted, I think, and then fled the country, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I wasn't sure of the details on that, but I guess what I'm just trying to say is, I also feel like there is something you said in Wolfman, you brought this up, that I also believe in redemption and forgiveness with people, and like people can learn from mistakes and realize they did some really stupid, sketchy, awful crap. Some things, you get your redemption by doing prison time, and you have to serve your time. And I think some people, they need a lot of help, and they don't need to be around kids at all under any circumstance.
There needs to be reformation, right?
Yes, and I think, but for somebody to then make something, some work, and it seems to, and not even seems, so let's just be honest, like has obvious references to things in it that imply heavily that somebody may not have learned all of their lessons, really, even because, and look, they could go through and make a bunch of like movies that seem totally innocuous and there's nothing in their private life, they're doing horrific stuff. I get that. But I'm just saying there's something to be said for somebody being so brazen to where they're still creating their art and putting things, infusing it with stuff that is like, whoa, dude, really? Like you're gonna, so I think it's a very complicated topic. But I do think there are people that have done really bad stuff, and they should show a sense of remorse, and they should show like they've learned. And I feel like if they've done those things, if you, like for instance, Wolfman, can get past that, then so be it. Like I guess where I have a problem is I'm not going to come at you and be like, how could you watch that crap, man? You know what he did. Like, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't help anything. Like if you can, you can. Right. I can't.
Yeah, Victor Salva, I don't know why, is a sticking point for me. He's the one person.
No, I get, because I've read the details, dude. I get exactly why it's a sticking point for you. It is for me as well.
He's the one person I feel good about just telling everyone.
Yeah, no, I get it.
You shouldn't support this guy.
Yeah, don't.
But for the most part, it's just, like we made the decision not to cover his movies on the show. I don't think we ever, talked about it publicly. But until now, or we made the decision not to cover Rosemary's Baby as a feature review. We didn't have to have this discussion, but I think, I think it's good. And I think it's good, especially in the time period we're in, where cancel culture is such a hotly debated concept, because I do think there's an argument with cancel culture where you can say, what this really is accountability for people who haven't had any accountability. And you're hearing from voices of people who have been marginalized and not allowed to speak or been too afraid to speak. And so it's feeling like these people are being canceled out of nowhere, but really you've been oppressing people for all of history, and these groups are now finally able to speak and have a platform, and now these people who were never held accountable are being held accountable. I think that's legitimate.
I think that is legitimate. And then I flip it around and I also say, however, we also have to have room for redemption and forgiveness and moving beyond things and not acting, because I think it's a fine line where the bullied can become the bullies.
Unless the crime is so heinous or the situation is so heinous or the person is not showing any signs of reformation, that's just a personal choice you have to make. How do you feel about supporting this person? And that's legit. Like, I know I've said it a lot, but I don't think I could overstate, when you're an artist, the difference between choosing to go see someone's movie and not going to see someone's movie could be the difference of that person getting to make another movie again. Like, it's a big deal, and it's very hard to make a living as an artist. And so you're enabling people who are doing these things, in certain situations. But on the other hand, like, I really believe we're not our past, we're our present. People can change, and we do all change. I'm a completely different person right now than I was 10 years ago. And if I was held to my worst mistakes or my stupidest comments from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
I'd be canceled instantly. Right.
Oh my God. But if you're going to hold somebody to account of how they were, like you said, when you're like 15 years old or 20 years, whatever. Okay. If that's going to be the standard, man, we're all screwed. Because I don't know a single human being that in their teens or their early 20s wasn't a kind of a moron. So good luck. Yeah. Good luck to all y'all.
And it's also, you have to think, just to continue with this idea of redemption. Can there be redemption for Harvey Weinstein? Somebody like at that level?
I think for most people, the answer would probably be no.
Right.
I think most people, the answer would be absolutely
not. Okay, well, then how about Kevin Spacey? How about, all of these people? Can anyone ever see 10 years from now, Kevin Spacey makes another movie, somebody decides to give him a chance? Does anybody go to see it? Does anybody support it? Does anybody?
And I think it just depends. Like, look at like Mel Gibson.
That's very true.
Slowly been, he's been slowly kind of working his way, back into things. And I think there's been talk of Lethal Weapon 5. I'm not going to lie. I heard that. I was like, hell yes. Old Riggs and Murtaugh. I'm there all day long. Like, that was my knee-jerk reaction to that, So yeah. And I think it also comes back to you. Like, what are you willing to pay your dollars to? So,
when I think about redemption, I can't help, because of my religious upbringing, think about religion. And there was always this concept of weighing justice and mercy, right? And so I think you see that with the Black Lives Matter protests: no justice, no peace. I think when there's justice, it's very easy for mercy to reemerge. Like Joel was saying, you can serve your time in prison, and that can be your redemption to some degree, as long as there's reformation. But ultimately it's a personal choice. Like, I don't think it's my place to go out condemning other people for their words or actions, but I can certainly choose to not support those people. I just think that has to be kind of a personal idea. I just watched Rosemary's Baby, and this is my Letterboxd review. F. Scott Fitzgerald famously said that intelligence is the ability to hold two contradictory opinions in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. So, Roman Polanski made some of my favorite films of all time, including Rosemary's Baby, and also child molesters.
It's almost like both things can be true.
Anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent, but honestly, I'm glad we had that conversation, even though it's not on topic, because I think it's such a big topic of discussion generally. And when you have a master like Polanski in our genre, it's hard to not discuss him or and have that not come up. So
yeah, I'm just very surprised it took the Evil Babies episode for it to come out.
I'm not.
Well, it's because of Rosemary's Baby,
right?
And I think so. Here's an idea that Rosemary's Baby brings to mind for me that's not about cancel culture. This idea that we see in so many of these films where a woman is taken advantage of by a cult. Their body is used in this way of, number one, it's just completely taken advantage of, but also it's used as this vessel. You don't see that with men, and for obvious reasons, but I do think it was interesting. I was thinking about Midsommar, where that's one of the few films where you see male victimization by a cult in kind of a similar way, where it feels like, okay, like it's so rare to see male victimization in that. in that same.
Yeah.
Although I haven't seen it and I know it's on the list, and I'm actually kind of sad because if I'd known this could have been one of the ones, because I've always wanted to see it and I could never convince my wife to watch it with me, which is Bad Milo.
Well, Bad Milo, I just put here in this section with Midsommar and Hereditary because they were all films that felt like this idea of a man being used as a vessel, which is just so rare.
Yes, but I will say the idea that you clumped Bad Milo with Midsommar and Hereditary is kind of awesome to me, because like I haven't seen Bad Milo, but I've seen the other two, and I can safely say they do not seem to fit at all. But I get your point.
No, Bad Milo, it does not necessarily fit with those films. It's more like the movie Baby Blood we'll be talking about later, but it is this idea that you see in a lot of these films. Prevenge is another one, where the entity inside you is kind of carrying out the worst elements of your id, or it's killing and you're kind of complicit in that. Brain Damage is another movie that kind of fits that mold in a way.
Yes,
but yeah, Bad Milo is in that sense. This man is carrying around this thing inside his body that shoots out of his butt and kills people.
I want to see that movie so bad. Oh my God, I need to watch that movie.
Not exactly in this genre, but I just thought it was interesting that there are so few films where a man is a vessel. And it's also interesting that two of them were Ari Aster films. But
yep.
Indeed. And I think you left off an important one as Man is Vessel, which is the classic Junior.
I knew you were going to say
starring
that.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yep. and even before that, what was it? Rabbit Test with Billy Crystal.
Important.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Very important. We mentioned everything. All right. So let's go ahead. We got the hell of a list here. Let me jump through. So Beyond the Door, 1974. Is another one. It's Alive, which we will be returning to, 1974. That's actually a bit of a franchise. Oh, you could say a trilogy, because I believe there's only 3 of them, if I'm not mistaken. The Devil Within Her, which is also known as I Don't Want to Be Born, also known as The Monster, also known as Sharon's Baby. I like The Devil Within Her as the original title better because it sounds dirty.
And I'm guessing Sharon's Baby was a later title after Rosemary's Baby.
No, but it makes sense. That actually makes sense that they would have done that to capitalize. To the Devil, A Daughter from 1976.
Hammer.
Another one from
Love
76.
that title.
Demon. Yeah, it's a good title. Demon Seed, 1977. Another one we will be revisiting here shortly. A movie that I am ashamed to say I have not seen. I know. I need to see it. Eraserhead. 1977. I cannot believe I've never seen that. I've always. Here's the thing. My wife and I watch a lot of movies, and she's willing to tolerate a lot that I watch. But there's certain ones I'm like, she is never going to go over this. So I need to find the time. I don't want to just watch it on my phone. You know what I mean? Like, I actually want to see this on a screen, and a bigger screen than my phone.
When your wife goes to visit her family without you, this is when we're going to do our David Lynch marathon.
There you go.
Lynch movies. Yeah. Yeah, buddy. I can't wait. I'm excited about that. Alien.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's certainly an impregnation there, and it happens to men and women, which is great.
But hey, in the original, it is a man. Like, that's another man used as vessel example.
And all of the films deal with pregnancy in really weird ways, right? Like even to Resurrection, and all of these have like such a crazy relationship with procreation. Yes. I don't know. They're interesting. They're an interesting franchise to think about.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. The Brood, another one that's been on my queue forever and a day that I have yet to see. And I feel like this year is going to be my year of going and finding all the movies that I'm so
Lynch
ashamed
when I say. The year of Lynch and Cronenberg. Boy.
Yeah. 1979 is The Brood. The Godsend from 1980, which sounds vaguely familiar, but I'm not 100% sure.
That's another more of an evil kid movie, I believe, not exactly a pregnancy movie.
Another one whose title says it all, Inseminoid.
I actually watched Inseminoid last year for an episode of Land of the Creeps. I have the Blu-ray of Inseminoid, which I bought before seeing Inseminoid, or I would have never bought the Blu-ray.
Really? I really like that movie.
I remember being sort of I said even less than lukewarm about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, I like that movie actually. I wouldn't say I love it, but it's watchable.
It's watchable, yeah, especially on Blu-ray. It looks great.
Have you seen this one, Joel?
I have never. I'm familiar with the box art. Like I remember that video art, but I'd never seen it. I think
Joel will like this movie. It's not quite so bad. It's good just because it doesn't go quite as bonkers as you want it to. That's the problem. Right. If it went a little more bonkers, it would be even better. But it's a pretty crazy bad movie. I like it.
I love that cover though. That is insane.
That's a film that's probably like a 4.5, but it's like a strong recommendation from me. It's basically a situation where these astronauts go to a planet where they're exploring, a station where other people have disappeared. And they go into like this underground tunnels basically inside the planet. And they find these crystals that have to do with impregnating a woman with an alien child that sends her on like a murderous rampage. I mean, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I need to. I'm adding it. I've got like this ongoing like queue of. It's mostly horror. There's a few non-horror titles that other friends have told me I need to watch that I have yet to get to.
It's a good bad movie. I would watch it if I were you, Joel.
Yeah.
For me, it would be a 4.5 with everything a 4.5 entails.
Gotcha. All right, Extro. 1982.
Not exactly pregnancy, but a weird kind of like shedding of skin and monsters coming out situation.
And then we've got The Bad Seed from 1985, which is apparently made for TV. It was a remake with Lynn Redgrave and David Carradine, which I didn't even know existed.
They love making this movie. Every decade, it seems they want to make the Bad Seed.
I think it was such a popular play. Yeah. I think that's the big driving force behind it. One of my all-time favorite movies. I love this movie. This is one when I was making my top 10 list for HMP when I first joined you guys. It jumped on and off like multiple times because I just love this movie, which is The Fly from 1986.
Yeah. And the pregnancy scene in that's it's a dream sequence, right? It's like a nightmare sequence.
Yeah, it's like a nightmare type thing.
It's a pretty creepy one.
The baby maggot. Yeah, the baby maggot. A movie I've not seen in years, but I loved back in the day, which is The Seventh Sign.
That's one I really regret not getting to a rewatch. I saw that when it came out too, or sometime when I was a kid. I loved that movie.
Yeah, I was pretty because it's 88, right? So I mean, it was Demi Moore, Jürgen Prochnow, however you say his name. I'm right there with you, Wolfman. I love that movie back in the day. Begotten.
Okay, I want to read you guys the synopsis of Begotten. It's a little long, but it's worth the ride.
Okay,
are you ready?
Do it.
Inside a small shack, a robed figure, God, disembowels himself using a straight razor. After removing some of his internal organs, the character dies. A woman, Mother Earth, emerges from his mutilated remains. She brings the corpse to arousal using his semen to impregnate herself. Time passes and Mother Earth, now visibly pregnant, stands beside a coffin containing God's corpse. Wandering off into a vast and barren landscape, Mother Earth later gives birth to Son of Earth, a malformed, convulsing man. He is soon abandoned by his mother, who leaves him to his own devices. After an untold period of time wandering across the barren landscape, the Son of Earth encounters a group of faceless nomads who seize him by his umbilical cord. Upon being captured, the Son of Earth begins to vomit organic pieces, which the nomads excitedly accept as gifts. They then throw the man into a fire pit, where he burns to death. Son of Earth is resurrected by Mother Earth, who comforts her newly reborn offspring before they continue together across the barren landscape. The nomads soon return and proceed to attack Son of Earth as Mother Earth stands in a trance-like state. Turning their attention to her, the nomads knock her to the ground, rape her, and murder her as her son watches helplessly nearby. Once the nomads have left, a group of robed figures arrive to carry away Mother Earth's mutilated, disemboweled remains. The group returns to murder and disembowel her son, burying pieces of both mother and son into the crust of the earth. As time passes, the burial site soon becomes lush with flowers. Grainy photographs of God killing himself are shown. In the final scene, Mother Earth and her son appear in a flashback, this time wandering through a forest. So beautiful ending.
Well, by the way, I love that you literally spoiled that entire movie, and I have a feeling it does not matter one little bit.
No, not at all. It is a. First off, it's a black and white, and it looks like 16 millimeter or 8. I mean, it looks like
it looks really gritty,
very gritty, very grainy. Very disturbing. I mean, this imagery, it doesn't. I mean, it sounds intense. To actually watch the movie, it's even more intense.
Wait, IMDb comes to the rescue. This is the first user review. Ready?
Right.
Scarred for life is what they put. They gave it an 8 out of 10 stars, by the way, but it's a scar.
Oh, it's you know what? There's something mesmerizing about it, but it's grotesque in a lot of ways. It really is.
The first line of this review: don't watch this film while or soon after eating. Holy
I feel like
schmoly.
this has to have been some kind of influence on Darren Aronofsky's mother, too.
Yes, like a pie. It has that pie. It looks almost like, some of the images I'm seeing have that pie look.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like the narrative of, it feels like this is like a sequel to Mother or something.
I mean, this is
God, this is really just these images are disturbing, dude. Like
it's directed by Elias Merhige. Is that how you pronounce his name? The director of Shadow of the Vampire.
Yeah.
It was I actually reviewed it on the blog, and I gave it 9 out of 10. But I said it has imagery that is simultaneously hypnotic and disgusting.
Wow.
And its influences ranging from ancient mythology to the cabinet of Dr. Caligari. I mean, it's really, it's not an easy. It's hard to just recommend saying, "Hey, go out and check out Begotten." You got to know what you're getting into.
So let me ask you this, Dave. Knowing me the way you do, on a scale of 1 to 10,
don't watch Begotten. Don't go anywhere near Begotten. I don't think you'll make it past Mother Earth milking the seed from the corpse of God. I don't know that you'll make it past that scene.
Gotcha. 10-4. This is not one that I should sit down with my wife and go, "Hey, hon, I'm prepping for HMP."
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I got a good double feature for you. Let's watch Eraserhead and Begotten.
On the other hand, I think the next film might be right up your alley, Joel.
You know what? Dude, you know what's hilarious? You beat me to it. I was going to say, as opposed to the next one, which I love, which is A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child from 1989. I believe, I could be wrong, but I think this was the first Freddy movie I saw in the theater. I definitely know I saw Freddy's Dead in the theater, like opening day. I feel like I did. I know I had this on VHS, and I actually like this movie. I admit it may have 1 or 2 flaws, but I like it.
I hate this movie, but I won't.
Okay, but you'll be nice. Okay, I got you. The Terror Within from 1989. That was a good year, 1989. Look at this.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I looking at the poster art for the Terror Within, it looks like a movie that all of us should be very familiar with, but I can't remember what this movie is, and I'm not sure if it belongs on this list or if I just am confusing it with The Evil Within.
Oh, I know that box. Yeah, that video box, dude. That I always remember seeing. I always thought, you know what it was? I always thought that we had. I remember when I heard about Rawhead Rex.
Yeah,
and for some reason, the imagery on the creature, looked similar to Rawhead Rex.
If anybody knows about The Terror Within 1989, please let us know if this fits into the subgenre. And
it is.
I think on some level it does, dude, because I'm looking at an image right now, and there is what appears to be a Rawhead Rex looking like baby bursting out of between someone's legs. So
perfect.
This is a Roger Corman film. Roger Corman produced this.
I'm getting to this one. This is another that I need to watch. I should have watched before the show.
I want to see this too.
I just realized I have it on a double DVD set with Dead Space.
It's got Andrew Stevens in it, right?
It's Andrew Stevens. Got George Kennedy.
Oh, heck yeah, dude. I'm going to put this on my list. This is another one I want to see that I never got to back in the day. There's a lot of movies like I just remember I'd pass them all the time in the video store and I just never got to them.
And it looks like it's post-apocalyptic is what...
Yeah,
look at that. Very cool.
Oh, yeah, definitely want to see that. Okay. Next one that I tried to track down because it sounded kind of amazing, which is Baby Blood, also known as The Evil Within from 1990. Another one I always remember the video box for that I never got to. And I couldn't find it. Did either of you find it anywhere?
No.
Yeah, I've seen it. I haven't seen it recently, but I loved this. I mean, it's like a 6 or something, but I liked it.
I wanted to see it.
I liked it.
Man.
What?
I have it on Blu-ray.
Of course you do.
I said, I can't find it. And I own it. How did I not?
You know what? The video box, though, I remember if it's not the Blu-ray one, it's the one where it's like a lot of like maybe almost like 2/3 of the cover's white and it's like the fractured ground with the hands reaching up. And there's, I'm talking about that image, The Evil Within, that cover. That's what I remember seeing back in the day in the video store.
And if you need any further incentive to watch it, Joel, on the Blu-ray cover, the quote is from Fangoria. They called it a gorehound's delight.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
excellent.
a 1990 film, but it feels like an 86 film. Is just
that's out on a shelf.
Yeah.
No, but it just really feels like that type of horror where it's all about the 3 Bs.
Gotcha.
But yeah, there's carnage. Yeah. It's gooey. It's it's provocative. But
Is it French?
yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. Because I found a trailer for it. I watched the trailer and it didn't sound like English. So I was like, I didn't know this is French.
It's absolutely worth watching if you can find it somewhere online or you happen to own the Blu-ray already.
Yeah. I would have watched this one. Dave. I don't know where I was trying to find it. I actually, you know what? I bought it a week after my operation. So I don't know whatever that back in 2019. So I don't know if that. I was alert enough to put it in my DVD profiler, but not alert enough to remember I own it.
I think you're gonna love this movie, Dave. This is another Parasite kind of movie where, kind of like Bad Milo, where this woman has a creature crawl up inside of her, and then she has to kill for it and get blood for her parasite. So it's pretty great.
I really want to. Yes, now I will definitely check it. I will.
Yeah.
This is going right to the top of the list, and
I'm really sad because I actually tried because I tried. I'm again very proud of myself. Got in 3 movies for this episode. This is the only other one I was going to try to get in, and I searched for it. I couldn't find it anywhere. So
we're seeing
anywhere that wasn't sketchy. Let me just put it that way. So, all right, next up, we've got Child of Darkness, Child of Light from 1991.
Never see it, unfortunately.
Nope. Yeah. A movie I've not seen since the mid-90s, but I really remember liking it. I just don't remember much about it, which is The Day of the Beast. I believe it's Alex de Iglesia was the director, if I remember correctly. I think both of you would like it. Again, I'm trying to remember 20-something years ago. Right. So I just remember them covering it in Fango and being super excited to find it, and it was in my local video store had it. It's Alex de la Iglesia. That's his name. It's a cool movie. It's a heavy metal fan played by Santiago Segura, and a psychic, played by Armando de Raza, help a priest, played by Alex Angulo. They seek the infant Antichrist in Madrid at Christmas.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
And I remember, and again, I don't remember a lot of the details. I just remember really liking it. So that'll be one we'll have to maybe cover in the not too distant future.
That's also going on my list. Okay, we're going to have to do a part 2 to this episode.
Yeah.
At the rate we're going, I know. There's a lot of good stuff.
We're going to have to revisit it. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. The next is a movie that I'm going to be straight up with both y'all. This is where Carpenter's filmography started to go downhill for me. Which is Village of the Damned from 1995. I loved In the Mouth of Madness, which I know Wolfman is still scared to this day to watch.
I'm scared to watch. I will never watch.
But this one, I just remember coming out going, I didn't like it. But here's what's funny. I watched the trailer again with my kids right after we watched the 60 version. I was like, Carpenter made a remake of this. Let's watch the trailer. I haven't seen it in forever. And after we watched the trailer, I'm like, I don't know if I'm just mellowing with old age, man. But I'm like, I want to rewatch this movie. I think I'll like it now.
Yeah. And also Vampires is 98 and it's one of his best movies. But
yeah, I really like Vampires.
And see, I didn't like, you know what? I got in a crappy mood at this point in my life. This is my late teens, early 20s. And I guess I was turning into, I like to say film snob, except then when you look at the totality of the movies I like, you're like, yeah, dude, you were not a film snob.
Well, I can understand if you're a cinephile at the time when Vampires comes out, it's not a great movie. I absolutely understand that for sure.
Yeah.
But it was for some reason, starting with Village of the Damned, Vampires, certainly Ghosts of Mars. Oy.
Yes, yeah. Ghosts of Mars is, you can't defend that. I can't defend the Ghosts of Mars.
No. It was just, was there another one in there somewhere that I'm not remembering? I feel like there's another one, but because I love In the Mouth of Madness. Yeah. I've never seen Memoirs of Invisible Man because I just had no interest, and I've heard it's god awful. But that would have probably been another one that would have been come on. But I was just so obsessed with Carpenter's early stuff that I think then I went into, but I now that I've chilled a little bit, I need to revisit. I definitely need to revisit. So
at least Vampires, of all the ones discussed there, at least Vampires, I would give another chance.
The Devil's Child from 1997. I don't even remember the box. The box from a distance, oddly enough, if you just glance at it, when you Google it, it looks like the box art for some reason to me immediately jumps out as Donnie Brasco. I don't know why. Maybe it's the font or the coloring. There's something about that. I said, is that Donnie Brasco? I was like, no, it's The Devil's Child. I have no idea what this is. A Species 2, a movie I've never seen because I kind of hated the first one.
So the Species series, as a young boy on sleepovers with your friends, watching Squiggle Vision in the middle of the night, was a very key series in my adolescence. But I don't remember anything about the movies, and I've never revisited them since I was 10.
All right, Birth from 2004.
So this one doesn't fit the category, but I think it's such an interesting film. Have you guys seen Birth?
I saw it in the theater. I remember seeing this on the big screen.
Love this movie. This
Nicole
is such
Kidman.
an underrated film.
Is it Nicole Kidman?
Yeah, this is like if Kubrick was still alive, he would have made this movie. I love this movie. This is a woman's husband dies, and then a little boy shows up, and he may be her reincarnated husband. It is crazy. I love this movie.
Oh, I vaguely remember when this came. I did not see it though, but I do remember.
It was a flop, but it's so good.
I'm looking it up now. I think it was directed by the guy who did Sexy Beast, which is the reason I wanted to see it, because I loved Sexy Beast.
If you like kind of this, current state of quote unquote elevated art house horror, like Hereditary and that kind of stuff, this to me literally feels like a Kubrick light, maybe Kubrick light, but it feels that like that type of tone. It's good.
And it was his first movie after Sexy Beast, so that's probably why I really wanted to check it out. Very cool.
Blessed from 2000. The reason why I thought about it was when I saw the next one was Blessed. I was like, wait a minute, what happened to Bless the Child? Blessed from 2004 with Heather Graham. Dawn of the Dead 2004. That does definitely have a baby pregnancy scene in it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I love that concept, and we see that later. With I talked about that with what my number one movie of last year. Blood Quantum, where there's this kind of question, will this baby come out a zombie or not, is a scary idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is. The Eye 2, 2004, which I have not seen since 2004, so I remember virtually nothing about. Born, 2007. Firstborn, 2007. Grace from 2009. I have not seen, because every time I watch the trailer, I always go, I don't know if I'm going to watch this.
I saw Grace. It's been a while.
Is it good?
I'm looking my review up now. I don't remember much about it.
It looks good, but it's a really, for some reason, it was right when we had Parker, our last one, and I think, as I said at the top, the whole NICU story and everything. So I think anything dealing with babies at that time, especially ones in that circumstance, were not appealing to me at all to watch. So I never got to it. But I was going to watch it before this, and I was like, I don't know if I feel.
It's funny because I put I reviewed it back in 2015. My last paragraph, which I always go to figure out if I like it or not. Grace is in every way a female-centric horror film, both in its subject matter, childbirth, and the fact that its primary male characters are either absent or weak. So I liked it.
Yeah, looking at our listeners on Letterboxd, it averages like a 6. The lowest rating is a 3 from Rob from Belgium, and then the highest rating is an 8 from Dylan Brown, but the majority of our listeners gave it a 6.
Okay. Eventually, I'll get to it. Not before some of them, but yeah. All right, next up, and I'm being straight up with both of you because I loved this movie. I'm trying to figure out how it fits in. Is House of the Devil from 2009.
Well, ultimately it doesn't, but it ends with the concept is that this, again, a cult is going to impregnate this woman. Yeah. So that's
okay. That's fair. Fair enough. And any excuse to talk about that movie, I'm happy with because I love that movie. So, all right, The Unborn from 2009, not the one that I am so enamored of.
Right, I didn't know if it was a remake or if it fit. I wasn't sure. I'm
looking at the Playboy Interpretation of Church Ghosts. No, this has nothing to do with the one that I watched, from what I'm seeing. Legion from 2010.
So Legion, again, doesn't quite fit. I thought this was an interesting one to talk about because it's the reverse. It's like a holy child is coming to Earth and through pregnancy. So this is kind of the opposite of.
This movie had a very unusual depiction of angels, as I remember it.
Pretty cool. Like, it would be better now if the CGI was weird at the time and stuff. Right. But it's kind of a fun movie. It's just like if it was a little less actiony, it would have been great. I think if it was a little more grounded in like a gothic sensibility, it would have been great. Kind of reminds me of Preacher, which I like a lot more, but like that kind of world.
Mm-hmm.
So next up on our list is one that I'm going to do that thing where even though you've not seen it or anything connected to it, you're going to get really belligerent about, which is The Twilight Saga, Breaking Dawn Part 1, 2011. Why, Wolfman? Why?
Well, there's 2 reasons. Number 1, it has to do with a young human woman impregnated by a vampire. And so, again, we're dealing with this question of what's going to happen when this baby comes
Does
out.
the baby sparkle? But
the second reason is because Shani Dreadful, our upcoming guest, is a big fan of the Twilight franchise. And for once, I'm going to get to podcast with someone who will let me talk about this franchise.
Very cool.
Well, all respect to Shani, I will absolutely defer to her expertise on this, it just ain't my cup of tea. I'm just being honest.
I've not seen it. How do you know?
I can't speak because I've seen none of the movies, but I do tend to. It's like one of those things. When you see them, you turn your nose up and then realize, well, I've never really seen any of the movies. I can't really judge them.
Okay, here's the thing. I'd be willing to try. I would go in with an open mind and I'd be willing to try. But I know myself well enough. I think what probably happen. I think I'll probably watch these and go, you know what? They're not as bad as I thought they were. That's probably what. What's going to happen.
I've seen 3 of them, and I'll talk to Shani more about this. But I hated the first one. I think I liked it more the second one and the third one. What I love is the werewolf mythology is some of my all-time favorite werewolf mythology.
Wow.
The actual depiction of the werewolves sucks. They're just giant CGI wolves. But the way that they made the world of the werewolves, I love. Also, there's like a vampire Illuminati, I think was in like the third one that I saw. Mm-hmm. Again, it's been a long time and I only watched them once, but I really liked the kind of like vampire Illuminati in this world too. So there's some cool things about it, but yeah, the first movie is absolutely deplorable in my opinion.
And because I don't have all the baggage of those movies, I've always liked Kristen Stewart as an actress. So I'm thinking maybe if I go into it in that sort of like retrospective view of where I actually like her, so I go into it, maybe I'll have a totally different edge.
Skip the first film because the first film is just the stupid love triangle kind of thing with sparkling.
Yes, that's what I assumed the whole thing was. I honestly assumed the whole thing was that.
And baseball games.
It's very interesting because the people who have told me that who have talked about this, because I always say I've never seen any of them, tell me, well, watch the first one, it's not too bad, but then forget the rest. And I'm hearing the opposite now. So that's very interesting.
It's the thing Bill, I'm a genre fan, so I don't know who the people who told you that are, but for me, you watch, again, I haven't seen these probably since they came out, so it's been 10 years. Right. But the second and third films just had more. It dealt more with the worlds of vampires and werewolves and stuff, where the first film was more of like a young human's introduction to the world of sparkling vampires, and they play vampire baseball during thunderstorms because they hit the baseball so hard it sounds like cracks of thunder, and so they have to play during lightning storms, and then they're very romantic and they lay around in the woods, and that was like barf. And also Kristen Stewart's character is just like the most plain, boring, like no personality person on the planet.
I will tell you, you're definitely selling me on this, Wolfman.
I honestly think you can just skip the first one because you already know what Twilight's about. Everybody knows, like in the zeitgeist. I think you can watch. I can't say this for sure because I haven't seen it, but I might actually do this. I might rewatch 2 and 3 and decide if I'm going to finish the series. So we'll see.
If you decide you will, then I say I'd be willing to do a franchise review with you.
I think it would be so fun, honestly.
You know what?
Even if we hate it, wouldn't that be a blast?
Let's do it.
That would be.
Well, I'm in. I'm sure I own at least 1 or 2 of them. I'm in. We can do it.
For the love of God, I was excited to cover the Leprechaun franchise.
We have listeners who like it. Like Shani is a legit horror fan. She likes it. Raul, Raul versus Monsters on Twitter?
Yeah. Sure.
He likes Twilight.
Okay.
You know what? And here's the thing. I am the last person that's going to play the whole like, real horror fans, but that's bullcrap. No, you like what you like, and believe me, I like some things that would not be considered by quote unquote real horror fans to be valid.
Let me be clear. I do not like Twilight. But I just try to have an open mind about horror, and I like to explore the themes and the worlds.
I'm going to go less. You know what it is? If I'm being honest with you, I always, even though it deals with vampires and werewolves and stuff. It's the same thing with the movies, the underworld movies. Like I saw the first one, I was like, because it feels more like it's fantasy.
That was more action type fantasy.
Action, yeah. And I feel like Twilight I always took as fantasy, and I'm not as into fantasy as I am into like straight up horror type stuff.
YA fantasy with horror trappings. So
that makes sense.
Of course, you're going to want to skip that, but
all right, enough talk about Twilight
for now.
Okay, for now. That's fair. Next up, we have Delivery, The Beast Within from 2013. Is this some kind of like weird pseudo sequel to The Beast Within from 1982?
No, this one is maybe, but this one is such a weird movie. It's like an HGTV show So it's like a kind of a found footage faux documentary style. And if this is from IMDb, a young couple documenting their first pregnancy for a new TV show discover that a malevolent entity is taking control of their unborn child. So it's literally shot like you're watching a terrible
show on HGTV or a regular show on TLC. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, a movie that we'll be going into more depth here shortly, which is Hell Baby from 2013.
Yep.
And the next couple, I will have to defer to both of you as to whether or not they are, in fact, evil baby movies, which is House of Good and Evil from 2013, Jugface from 2013 as well.
I've seen Jugface, but I don't remember. I haven't seen the other one. It's been a long time.
So those of you out there listening, you can tell us, but it somehow ended up on our list, so we'll go with it. Proxy from 2013. All right, so next up we got Devil's Due from 2014 and Hungry Hearts from 2014. And then Rosemary's Baby, the TV movie from 2014, which I had no idea was even a thing.
Starring Zoe Saldana.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Huh, I might try to track that down.
It's a two-parter, too. Yeah.
It's not quite Terror on the Tube because it's too new, but just for fun, that'd be...
Hey, someday.
Yeah, someday it'll be a Terror on the Tube. All right, so Wandering Rose, a.k.a. Demon Baby from 2015.
It's a great title.
Yeah.
It is a great title, yeah. I by the way, I assume you and I both agree we're not talking about Wandering Rose, we're talking about Demon Baby.
Wandering Rose.
Okay. Visions from 2015. Anti-Birth from 2016.
That movie is nuts, man. That was like an acid trip movie. That's crazy.
I have not seen it, but that one I knew going in I owned it on Blu-ray. So that one I already knew I owned. But I did not get a chance to see that one. So that's going to have to be a double feature with Baby Blood.
If you want to watch something really weird and messed up, Anti-Birth is the movie for you. It's got crazy body horror. The actual delivery scene comes very late in the film, unfortunately, but it is some of maybe the most disturbing delivery scene I've ever seen in my entire life.
Wow.
It is crazy, dude. Well, it's kind of a two-parter, too. There's two parts to this. I will just lightly spoil this part. At first, only the head comes out, but not like in a normal movie, like just a head pops out. Okay? And then the body comes later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
So in other words, watch this with Begotten.
Yeah,
is what we've determined.
Right. That's you should line that up for your wife. Say, hey, honey, do you have the afternoon? I got some movies for you.
If Joe Begos took LSD and then made Willy's Wonderland with a pregnant woman in it.
That would be this movie.
And it's got a bunch of great like indie actors, like Chloe Sevigny's in it, Meg Tilly, Mark Webber is one of my favorite actors, is in it.
Natasha Lyonne is in it.
It stars Natasha Lyonne, who I'm not a huge fan of. Honestly, she's like the one thing that kept me from loving this, just because I just don't like her. But if you like her, you're gonna love this. People who like her are gonna love this if they can handle a very trippy, very intense body horror art film craziness. Yeah.
Wow.
Gotcha. Okay, well, I like her, so who knows? Maybe I'll surprise myself.
I'm sold.
And then I love that you picked the next title, even though there's no baby, but if you've seen this movie, you're going to know why on some level, why it's here, and that's Don't Breathe, 2016.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't quite fit.
Turkey baster. That's,
man.
Yeah. If we did the horror of turkey basters, it would definitely be there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Holidays from 2016, the Mother's Day segment.
That Mother's Day segment might be my favorite pregnancy horror film. Just that one segment of Holidays. I love that Mother's Day segment. It's so good. I would love to see a feature film version of that short. It's so good. Absolutely love it.
Cool.
And then we've got Prevenge, Prevenge from 2016, which we'll be getting covered here in a little bit. Shelley from 2016.
Yeah.
Child of Satan.
Or
should I say, wait, Child of Satan from 2017. I literally just showed my kids a bunch of clips from Church Lady like 2 days ago. Little Evil from 2017.
Oh, yeah. That one's, again, more of like it is a woman gave birth to the son of the devil, but he is already born. I mean, he's like 8 when the movie starts. It's basically like a comedic Omen. and it's not very good. It's like in the 6 range maybe, but it's like a fun, if you like Omen and you like dumb comedy, it's like a dumb, fun version of that.
Okay. I probably would like it.
Is it Jason Bateman in it maybe?
Oh, really?
I think so. And what's her name? Evangeline Lilly is the mom.
Oh, okay. From Lost.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The kid looks wacky. Oh, dude, this looks great. Oh, it's the guy from Parks and Rec. What's his name? Adam Scott.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I haven't seen it since it came out, but it was fun. It's not good, but it's watchable.
Oh, man. No, I think I would dig this.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I would say, in the vein of Hell Baby that we're talking about later. Like, it's just kind of a dumb fun.
All right, cool. All right, so then we got Mother, 2017.
Again, it's kind of a reverse on the theme. Like, it's like the Son of God is being born, but it's disturbing horror movie for sure.
Yep.
The Bad Seed from 2018, a made-for-TV movie remake with Dave's cousin, Rob Lowe.
Yes. I haven't seen nearly enough with Cousin Rob, and I'm going to have to definitely check out The Bad Seed, because I didn't even watch the, what was it? He was in the Salem's Lot remake. I didn't even see that one.
You know what? Wolfman, were you the one that hated that?
The Salem's Lot remake? No, I like it. I mean, it's not good, I don't think, but I
liked it too, but who did I talk to that I could have sworn I hated that movie? Like, I can't remember who it was. Somebody hated that movie that I talked to.
I don't know. Maybe I said I did. I own it, though. So if I did say I hated it, I'm a hypocrite.
Well, the reason I bring it up is I actually liked it. I didn't like it as much as the original, but I did like it.
Imagine owning a movie you don't like.
Yeah.
Guy, wouldn't that be weird if you actually did that, Dave?
Imagine owning 2,000 movies you don't like.
Right, yeah.
And then you're like halfway to what Dave's dealing with. All right, The Devil's Doorway from 2018.
This was a good one.
Fantastic movie.
This is a really good movie. Yeah.
Also in the top 5 of movies we're talking about. It's found footage, but like in a 70s shot on Super 16 found footage. It's cool. I like it.
I remember it disturbed me because of just the thematics of it, and it just reminded me of my religious upbringing. It just was a very difficult sort of film for me to sit through in that regard, but it's excellent. It's really a strong movie.
Really great. Amazing location. Great cast. It's got like it kind of is a little bit reminiscent of Final Prayer, the other Catholic found footage movie. Yeah.
Yep.
It appears to be on Hulu. I have never seen it. I actually, now looking at the pictures, remember when this came out and wanting to see it with my wife because she would like a movie like this. So I think we're going to have to watch this here very soon.
We did cover it. We talked to the director too.
Yeah, I think you guys did before I came on the show, right?
I think so, yeah.
Because I remember listening.
If you enjoy, religious thematic material, then it's a great entry in kind of the religious horror.
Yep.
All right. Next up, we got Good Manners from 2018.
I really like this movie. Yeah, I really like it. This came out. This was sort of the year of South America for me, because I think of my top 3 horror movies that year, this was number 3 and number 1 was Terrified. Like, they were really knocking it out of the park that year. And they also, then the next year, obviously, with The Night Shift, that was also from South America. But this was, I really like the CGI at times is a little bit weak, but the story itself and the way they approach the material, I loved it.
The CGI is a bummer because everything else is good. It kind of reminds me of Host in that way, or The Host, I should say, not Host. Because like the movie's so good around it, but then the CGI just looks kind of subpar. But
yeah.
All right. Well, all of our next ones, the next 4 are 2018. We've got Malicious.
I liked Malicious. No, it's not good, but it's watchable. Right. I like the main actress that's in it. I can't think of what her name is right now, but she's good. Delroy Lindo's in it, which is cool.
Oh, that's cool. Stillborn from 2018, which I believe was one of the first reviews I did for HMP with Dave.
I remember discussing that. I think you talked about the experience of watching this. Were you like watching it in bed or something, and it kind of freaked you out?
Oh yeah, it was. That's right. Yes, because I was under the covers with my phone, like trying to watch it. But did it have some scene involving? I just remember I got creeped out.
There were scenes involving like a bed and a bedroom. Yes.
It's been a while, but yeah, I think it was something like that. Yeah, I remember talking about that. A movie that I know Dave's a huge fan of, Saint Agatha from 2018.
Oh my goodness. talk about movies you own that you don't like. Oh my God. This is not a good movie. St. Agatha is just not good. I watched it with the intent of reviewing it, and I just abandoned saying, no, I'm not going to write about this one. So I just picked something else that day.
Wow. All right. Well, then what about The Wind from 2018?
The Western.
Yeah, it's a decent indie Western. It doesn't quite fit the genre. There's a pregnant woman who feels like an evil entity is after her child. And that plays into the drama of the film, but it's not exactly fitting this subgenre.
All right. And a movie I know we covered. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but it probably was. Satanic Panic from 2019.
A fun one.
That's a fun comedy. Basically, there's a pizza delivery driver who shows up accidentally at a satanic cult gathering and becomes their virgin insemination sacrifice.
Right.
Okay, next up, Blood Quantum, which was Wolfman's number one. It's from 2020.
And again, it doesn't quite fit because the question isn't really answered. It's at the very end of the movie, but it is this idea of being pregnant with a child that might come out a zombie. And so it's not really the thrust of the film, but it does play into the themes of the film.
Yes.
But it's there. It's an element. One that obviously helped inspire even doing this episode. Anything for Jackson.
Yes.
Probably the main inspiration for this episode, but
I would argue, and can I be honest with both of you, and you'll be proud that I didn't do this, but Wolfman, you asked us to send you our top 10 list when you were putting the show notes together. I had rewatched Anything for Jackson with my wife. We had the interview with the writer. I'm not going to lie. If I had it to do over again, this thing would have bumped up higher on my list.
Same here, actually. I was thinking that too.
Yeah, not just because we talked to the writer. It was really cool to get all that insight, but rewatching it, I had a really cool, unique experience watching it that second time. And then my wife hadn't seen it and she liked it a lot.
What was her response to it?
She loved it. She didn't like the ending. See, I love the ending. Yeah. I love the ending. And she didn't. It's funny. Tyson, my friend Tyson, I got him to watch it. He loved it. Not so didn't dig the ending. And I think I don't want to give anything away, but I think if I remember correctly, Keith got into that a little bit, some of the reactions to the ending. I love it. I love the ending. But anyway, I digress. That movie was Doc's number one. So
I loved it.
It would have definitely been higher on my list if I made my list today.
Yeah. Yeah, if I did it again, I'd be in my top 5 for sure. All right, Castle Freak, the remake from 2020, which I haven't seen yet, but
yeah, again, it's not necessarily the main driving force, but it plays a role in the film, and you have a woman whose birth plays a major role in the plot, and there is a cult impregnation situation.
I had heard people say, I saw it. I still don't like it as much as the original, to be honest.
I think it's good. Better, to be honest.
It's maybe, the original is Full Moon. It's a full moon movie.
Yes, it is. And to be fair, Wolfman liked Inseminoid.
Oh, that's true. That's true. He did like Inseminoid, yeah.
This is better than Inseminoid. This is not a great movie, and the original is a classic. But having said both those things, I think this is still, if you're just taking it, you're taking the classicness out of it and the fact that this is kind of a lower budget